Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new series, I guess, on the channel where we just talk about new episodes of Doctor Who. Whoa!
Whoa, shouting into the
New!
new void.
Literally. It might be, depending on, well, how this episode ended.
She was shouting into it at the end, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
that's true. So I'm sure people are aware, but series 13 of Doctor Who has premiered. It was yesterday at time of recording. So we've had a day to process our feelings. You can see our instant reactions on Liam's channel where we watched it live and we discussed.
Thank you, BBC, for not blocking it.
I did
I
see
only
that.
had to edit it once. It was joyous. I've seen a lot of people have trouble, so thank you.
Lovely. So that'll be linked in the comments, and you can go check that out if you haven't already.
They'll block it now.
Yeah, yes, I do. Like, oh, sorry. If they have, I'll make sure I write that just so that people don't think I've missed it. But now we're going to discuss our sort of in-depth thoughts about this and what we thought of the episode and where things are going to go and things. So it's going to take the same format as Shouting into the Void. So we're going to have 3-ish positives and 3-ish negatives. We'll come on to that. But basically, this is the start of Doctor Who Flux. I guess that is the title now of the show, is Doctor Who Flux. It's not just Doctor Who Flux Part 1 or whatever. And this was the Halloween apocalypse. Right, let's see if I can explain this concisely.
There's no way. I want to mention every person who was in it.
So the Doctor and Yaz have to go to Earth because they're chasing down a man called Carvanista, or a dog man. I've forgotten what the name was. Someone called Carvanista. Turns out he's kidnapped John Bishop, the new companion Dan, and then they chase him down. Then they have to free Dan. At the same time, there is a girl that gets zapped by the Weeping Angels, who apparently knows the Doctor and Yaz because she's like, "Oh, it's you guys." Okay, she gets zapped. We'll find more about her later on, I hope.
We never see her again.
I mean, maybe, you never know.
Oh, we forgot about her,
yeah. We see Vinda, another new recurring character for this series. He's in a space station that's monitoring space. We see the Swarm and the Swarm's sister. I don't know if she has a name.
Yeah.
Maybe she's the, don't know, who knows. The Swarm and the Swarm's sister are weird skull people that seem to be very ancient and are something to do with the division, perhaps. They've basically been set free and they're going to cause some havoc. But then also, you've got this weird space cloud that's devouring planets, kind of like Galactus in Fantastic Four, called the Flux, which is obviously the title. All of these seem to be converging, and we've also got Sidemen doing something, and some Victorian people digging some holes.
And Sontarans are here too. Gang's all here.
So there's a lot going on. It's so, for those that don't know, this is a 6-part story rather than an episodic. Each episode is tied up in the nice little neat bow at the end. So there are going to be questions that we get left with, which is quite a few in the case of this first episode.
Yeah, in classic Who, this would be a 12-parter, basically.
Yes, yeah.
Of which there was one, and it's very long.
And it's not, we don't want to judge. So if something's left hanging, we don't want to be like, oh, I can't believe they left this hanging, because it's not fair to judge these kinds of things that are clearly going to take place over the course of the series.
Yeah, I do think this is going to be incredibly hard to review in any way, shape, or form with this structure, I think.
Yes.
Because I just don't think any individual episode, particularly not the very first one, is going to be as strong as like the whole thing. I think that some of the parts just aren't going to be, it's difficult. So there are going to be things like I'm a bit confused with, or I'm a bit like, maybe you could have presented that in a different way. But I think a lot of the qualms will be kind of met by the end of episode 6, hopefully.
You would hope. And then if not, we can discuss all of that in episode 6 and say, well, they didn't pick up this, or they didn't really need that there. But we can still judge it as a viewing experience, whether we enjoyed some things, whether we didn't, whether that's acting, set pieces. Maybe there are some questions that we're not a fan of or don't think they needed to do in this episode. But again, it'll all be given context further down the line, hopefully. So Because I feel we both enjoyed this episode. We do always start with the positives. So I'll let you go first for the first positive of series 13.
Yay! It feels weird to be doing like currently airing one. I'm just used to like being in the 2007
There's
mindset.
no nostalgia. What's going on?
I know, God.
Can't do it.
One day we'll be nostalgic for all this.
You hope.
In like 14 years.
Oh, God.
But yeah, my first big one is the visual presentation of the episode. I think this looks fantastic. I think personally the design of the Carvinist is quite cool. I like it. I think it looks cool. I mean, the Flux is kind of a generic looking thing, but I think what they've done with it is fun, and like all the shots of the TARDIS in space and stuff I thought looked really nice, like CG and everything. I love the design of Swarm. I think he's really cool, especially the shot of him like absorbing that energy and becoming like younger and stuff. I think that's actually really creepy. Yeah, I think that looks great. Loved all of that. I can see that kind of scaring kids. Good, be scared. So yeah, just the whole presentation of it. I think, you know, the director, this era in particular has worked with Jamie Magnustone a lot, so it's not really surprising that he delivers in terms of this era, because there is a lot. We're going all over the place. You know, we're in 1820. We're at the end of the universe. We're all everywhere and nowhere at exactly the same time. But especially watching it again, I would say he presents it very cohesively. So visually, I think the episode really did shine. And I do want to say as well, very glad I watched it again. I think the second viewing, it often is the way, like once you know what you're getting into, you know what to expect, I think you can get more enjoyment out of watching something again. Yeah. And that often is the case. Yeah. So fair. Yeah, I really enjoyed like all the visuals and the presentation in terms of that. I think it looked very, very good.
Yes, that's fair. I think I'll stick on your point, although this is my third positive. It is the makeup design, the prosthetics and everything like that. So obviously Carvanista, I think he looks great, especially compared to Orphan 55 when they just gave her a cat nose and some ears that look like tail, that look like the headbands you get with the little ears on. This was a massive step up. I have seen, as I mentioned to Liam beforehand, I have seen some people criticize that and be like, oh, it doesn't look very good. But I'm like, what?
All right, then you do it.
You know, compared to us, I think it is pretty good. I don't think there's you know, it works very well, and again, it takes a lot from the actor to portray emotion and everything through that amount of makeup. And I think that's done pretty well. The Swarm looks very good, as does the Swarm's sister. I want to keep saying wife, but it's sister.
Yeah, definitely not wife.
It's not. Well, I mean, maybe.
People were speculating that. Yeah. I remember speculation like, oh, they're going to be the Doctor's real parents. I'm like,
yeah, definitely not anymore.
How do you feel? I hope not. That's for sure.
Yeah, they look good both before he like regenerates and after.
Wait a minute.
Oh, we just stumbled. No. I think he looks great either way, and so does the sister when she sort of transforms. And also a special shout out to the Sontarans. They look excellent.
That's fun.
They look so gross, so like rugged, and
they're tall again.
Ish, I think.
They're very tall.
Are they?
Oh. In the next time trailer when he's next to Jodie, and the opposite end of Jodie, he's a tall boy. And Sontarans, a lot of the Sontarans were tall in the classic series, so I like that they've gone back to that.
Yeah. Well, either way, they look great. I did like the reboot design of the Sontarans from Series 4. I did quite like them, but I do get, and I'm falling into the category of they became a bit of comic relief towards the end of Moffat, I think.
Yeah, I do understand that, but they have always been.
Yes, funny. Yeah, and you see that in this.
And when they were first brought back in the new series, it's they're so short and potato.
Yeah.
They were made short for comedic purposes. They weren't short until the new series. Really.
Yeah, and I do, and that's fine. I'm fine with that. But and there's a little bit of comedy in there with these two that we get in this episode, which is fine. But I
saw an excellent meme of that, by the way.
Oh.
It was on Twitter, and it was like when you've left, you didn't flush your shit. It's like disgusting. It's like excellent. I love that we're memeing Doctor Who again.
Oh Christ! And they do look like shit, so it's good.
They do, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they do have that comedy side, but they also do look quite scary, and they are a monster rather than just some stupid alien things that wander around. Which is great. I really like that, and just the makeup across the board was excellent with all the villains. I don't know if the Weeping Angel was a person this time. I saw somebody say that they thought it was a statue.
There was a person credited. There was a woman credited.
Okay.
So I think it was a person.
So, that makeup, if they did actually use the woman for everything, is excellent. It always looks good. And I can't really complain in any department there, which is great. Hopefully it continues.
Yeah.
So what is your second positive?
The Dr. Yaz and Dan dynamic.
Interesting.
The dynamic, if you will. I mean, a lot of it is like the Doctor and Yaz. I really like them because it's them for the majority of the episodes together. And then Dan's got his own sort of thing going on. I think it gave Yaz so much more room to shine. As much as I miss Bradley Walsh, and I liked Ryan, but Bradley Walsh. I do feel like she had so much more to do, and she can fly the TARDIS now. She's like really capable of doing that. She's just fed up with the Doctor keeping things from her. We will get on to that.
Same.
But I think it's just incredible the difference that it's made to just giving her so much more to do, and she just seems so confident in her role now. And the kind of, you can just see that tension between Doctor and Yaz, even though they do, they are friends, they do care about each other. I like that kind of exploring that side of things. And then when Dan joins in, I really like. I mean, we've got more so of Yaz and Dan interacting, obviously, because they were being shot up when the Doctor and Dan first met, and then the end of the world kind of came for them. So not a lot of opportunity for them to bond just yet. But what we did get, I think Dan slotted in really well into this. I could kind of get past oh God, it's just John Bishop in my second watch. Because they're going to be, most people who don't know who John Bishop is aren't going to have that issue. No. So I'm just like, that's John Bishop. But I really felt him more as a character this time around, so that's good. Because that was on me before, not John's performance. But yeah, I really enjoyed what he brought to things. I can't wait to see it continue, because they're not going to die. Well,
not until the end.
Dan might. The Doctor's in the next time trailer, so should be fine. But yeah, I am excited to see where that dynamic takes them. But for now, as like a starting point, the Doctor and Yaz on their own were fantastic. I really liked them a lot. And then Dan, I think, blended seamlessly in for me anyway. So I really liked the three of them kind of carrying it as the TARDIS trio.
That's fair. And I'll put, so my first and my second are Yaz and then Dan. Mm-hmm. So I'll put them both in now, and we'll have my first and seconds now. I just think that Yaz is a lot more independent. She's more, and we've spoken about it during our Series 3 watch, she's more of that Martha-style companion where she's got her own set of skills and she doesn't need the Doctor to tell her what to do and sort of where to go. Obviously, the Doctor takes the lead a lot of the time because it's the Doctor and that's how it works. But Yaz is still capable of going off and doing that thing by herself. She goes and releases Dan from an alien cage. It's not like she just had to stand watch somewhere. So she's clearly capable of holding her own. And it's good that they've had that time to bond off screen. It's been off screen, so I'm sure some people will be a bit annoyed about that. And I did wonder beforehand if they were gonna pick up straight where Ryan and Graham left, or if they were gonna give it some space, and they probably have, so they can.
Apparently, there have been some novels that just came out when it's just a two.
Oh, really?
So I guess that fills in some of the gaps.
I'll have to have a gander. I haven't seen, but I might be wrong.
Yeah. But in the Target novelization,
yes, they will say
get so much more.
We won't get novelization. I mean, to be fair, we had the Witchfinders, which was only 2 series ago. So,
that's true.
So we might get one sooner rather than later. Although
I want all 6 in one.
I was going to say,
just a big chunky thing.
Flux would be a very thing to turn into a Target novelization. Yeah. But hey, it
would definitely be Halloween Apocalypse, War of the Sontarans. I think.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Yaz has really come into her own. She stands on her own as a companion. She is now, I think, a fully formed character, whereas when Ryan and Graham were around, they could have been interchangeable sometimes, I felt, and they didn't necessarily have that much personality separately. I think they got a bit better towards the end of the second series, just as they leave. And then also it's maybe reading some of the novels with them in, they also get a little bit more of their personality there, because you can do it a bit better when it's written on paper. And I know there were concerns that having Dan around might put Yaz back in the box that she'd been in for the past 2 series, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's very much a case of when Yaz and Dan are left by themselves, Yaz is in charge. There's literally a hierarchy now, so that to the TARDIS team, whereas it sort of was interchangeable last time, which
Yeah.
is good. I like that. And then obviously Dan as well. I love John Bishop. I think he's a great comedian. And he, I quite like him just in general off of comedy. He's very much has the same sort of interests that I'm into because he is a Liverpool fan as well, as is his character. So I feel like he's sort of up there in terms of comedians for me. I haven't really seen him do much acting, so I was a bit concerned. And I think maybe at the start there's a little bit of wobbliness, but that could also be because it's Doctor Who in general, and they don't necessarily always have the best acting as it is. But it wasn't like I was like, this is terrible acting. I can't believe he's in this. It was good. And I think Dan himself is an interesting character to explore if we ever do get that kind of depth, because we see that he's kind of, I guess, poor because he's not got any food. I don't know what his job situation is. I think they say at one point that he's a trader, so I assume he works.
Yeah, because John Bishop got in trouble, didn't he, in an interview for saying he was a plasterer.
Oh, there you go then.
And his introductory scene, he's a plasterer.
Yeah.
And yet he got in trouble for revealing that after that had come out.
Maybe. But, maybe that's a key plot point in a couple of weeks. Maybe he has to paper over some cracks. I don't know, to stop some.
That's how they stop the swarm.
Out. Yeah. Oh, I'll do it. Just get some brushes.
He turns a weeping angel into plaster.
Yeah, maybe.
Makes a wall out of it. Oh God,
maybe.
that's horrible.
Oh, could you imagine? Just every time you blink, just the wall moves.
The wall gets closer and closer to you.
Oh Christ. That's the next step.
That's horrendous. Damn.
But yeah, I do want to see more of his character. I don't feel we necessarily got too much for him. Obviously, we got a good introductory scene. You see how wholesome he is and how much he sort of cares for other people, even if he doesn't know them.
He wants to make people happy.
Yeah, and I quite like that in a character. I feel that he's very much similar. He's very similar to Graham, but I don't think he necessarily has the baggage of sort of having to look after his grandson while he's also on the TARDIS. So I feel that may be a bit more freeing. Although it depends what happens with his not girlfriend that he was supposed to be meeting for drinks.
Yeah, Diane.
Because she got taken by Mrs. Swarm. Sister Swarm.
Sister Swarm, sister.
So we'll see what happens with that. But I do like Dan to start with, and I'd like to see where his story goes and get more for him. I think it's kind of a shame that we'll probably only ever get to see him in this series, because if it's supposed to be set stacked up against each other, all these episodes, that doesn't leave space for novelizations or comics or anything to come out of that with him in it. So it might be a case of this is all we get, similar to how we don't really see any novels or anything with the Doctor and Wilf because they were only in the End of Time and not outside of that.
Hopefully there's some wiggle room in between the specials or something.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it depends if he dies. I guess is the other thing.
I'm pretty sure he's in the specials. I think.
Maybe. But we'll have to see, because there's also the whole case of, is he actually a human? Because it could be all a bit weird. So we'll see how it goes. Because it could turn out that he's some kind of weird alien that's actually trying to kill the Doctor. But hey, who knows? It's fine. So we'll see how it goes. I like Dan. I think Yaz was also given a lot of time in this episode, which I want to see more of. Because Doctor Who's always been at its best when its companions are at its best, which sadly isn't the case for Series 2. But never mind. So what is your third positive?
Doesn't matter because Rose is coming back, because Vinder's space station was called something Rose. Yep. So obviously she's coming back, guys.
Yeah, obviously.
But yeah, my third one was Swarm Boy. I really enjoyed the presence that he had. I thought both actors were very good, very creepy, and just an interesting concept. I think that out of everyone I think we got introduced to villain-wise in this one. I want to learn more about the Swarm, which is impressive, really, because it's like all these classic monsters, and then this new boy, and I'm like, oh, tell me more about you.
Yeah.
Like, goodbye, Sontarans. Goodbye.
Don't care about you, Weeping Angels. I want the guy with the crystal face.
Yeah, even though I am excited to see more of them, obviously. But I think the fact that there's a clear history with the Doctor that she doesn't remember, yet he knows that she's called the Doctor. So if it's like before,
but she was,
that,
but Ruth slash fugitive doctor is also called the Doctor. So
yeah,
pre-Hartnell doctors are called the Doctor as well.
But Ruth also had the police box TARDIS. So I'm like, where does she fit in?
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, they could have faked Hartnell's memory to think.
I don't know.
Or he could
maybe.
I'm sure it'll get explained.
The Swarm people were maybe in a different dimension. They came from the Time Child dimension. Maybe Ruth was a doctor in a different dimension, so she's not actually part of the official lineup or something. I don't know. But either way, I think it's a very great start for the Swarm. I think they are very creepy. I'm excited for them to explore like this history with the Doctor. Maybe it's like I saw another reactor, EMS Productions, kind of said maybe this is like the master to the pre-Hartnell Doctors, if you will, not the master themselves, the same character, but like that kind of equivalent. And I think that would be an interesting thing because apparently there's been all these great battles that they've had, and this is their final one for some reason. So I'm excited to explore exactly what that all means, and what they did to actually escape that prison in the first place. Like I was patient and planning, and like, but how though? So I'm excited.
We won't know about. We'll never get told
that. Well, that would be an issue then. But for now, it's not an issue because we don't know that's not going to be answered. But yeah, I really like the idea of them. I think they look great. I love the crystalline kind of ideas and stuff. And I'm excited to see more of Swarm. So that was a big plus for me.
Yeah, definitely. I do agree. I think it'd be interesting to see where they go, how they fit in, and that leads into how the division fits into everything, and then how the potentially pre-Hartnell doctors are. Maybe the Doctor Hartnell stage, because it's implied that every time that doctor that was working for the division sort of got too far, they wiped her memories and changed her back into a child. I think something is like that, of how it's explained. So it could be that everything the Doctor has said, so far when he was the 9th Doctor, 10th Doctor, everything he said then is true for this regeneration cycle of the Doctor, and they just can't remember the previous regeneration cycles.
Yeah, there's been 12 Time Wars, like.
Well, yeah, exactly. Also, I noticed that the Sontarans are like, this will be the greatest battle ever, or something like that. So that makes me think that this is going to be more impactful than the Time War, which will be interesting because it does get that impression if they've been sent back to the Crimean War. But who knows? We'll find out maybe someday. Yes, the Swarm is cool, and that's fair enough. I do understand what you mean. Some of my sort of bonus positives, the set design I thought was pretty good when they did have to use a set and not just a street. So Carvanista's spaceship was pretty cool. I liked all the weapons he had on the wall. And sort of his little seat in his little cockpit that he had. He was like, "Oh, for God's sake, go away! I'm busy." That was good. And then I guess Vinder's ship was kind of cool. I mean, we only really saw one room because I guess that was just what it really was. That was cool. And obviously the TARDIS. I think this episode was like the one where we saw more of it. Like, we moved around the console room a bit more.
I've really come round on that console room. Like
now it's dying.
Say what you will about the Edge of Reality, and you certainly have said a fair bit about the Edge of Reality. I don't know if that video's up yet, but still. But yeah, I really have grown to love that console room quite a bit. It's not my favorite by any means, but I do. I appreciate that a lot more now that I've kind of explored it in a video game and stuff. So
and I do
really
feel
like it
because it's a set that was already built and is quite spacious. I think they'll probably spend a little bit of time in there for obvious COVID restriction issues. And they definitely did shoot from, because previously I think when we've seen it, we've always sort of seen it as if we've got our back to the door and we're sort of looking in that way. Whereas this time I felt we were more around the console in different spaces, which is good. And I quite like that. I think, obviously with the 9th, 10th Doctors, we only saw that one sort of shot because that was the edge of the set. It just
didn't build a wall.
Whereas it looks like they've at least, because it's dark, maybe they can fake it and just make it look like there's other stuff there. It's good. Also, shout out to Jodie Whittaker, who I thought was great in this episode as well.
Yes.
She really does carry that element to be able to go from whimsical and fun to serious and hang on a sec, you need to stop doing this, to then, oh, hang on a minute, what's that? What were you doing there?
I can feel the universe dying. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's a lot.
Here's your tiny house. Yeah, so I do think she's great, and hopefully we'll get more of those kind of scenes with her and it looks like we're going to get that because she has the big confrontation scene with the Swarm. Hopefully we'll get more of those kind of things.
Yeah.
And then finally, just the stakes feel super high in this. It feels like there's going to be an actual impact. The big worry is that it's going to get to the end. It's going to be like, I've reversed it all. Done. Which is probably what's going to happen because, I mean, if it doesn't happen, if she doesn't reverse it at the end of this 6th episode, it'll be in the special next year, I would imagine.
I want those random green people to stay dead, damn it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, because it kind of implies that the Flux targeted the Doctor at some point, didn't it? Like it came towards her.
Yeah.
So maybe
I find it interesting if whatever the Doctor does to stop the Flux or get rid of her or whatever fatally wounds her, and then she's just regenerating for the next 3 specials.
Maybe, but then that's a very similar premise to Peter Capaldi's regeneration, where he sort of fought it off for his 1 episode. Although it would be
3 specials.
She just changes a little bit every time. Like one day, one episode, she's got a different arm, and it's a different leg.
Oh my god! That's how you find out who the new Doctor is. They just swap one limb at a time, and then
slowly revealing. But yeah,
regeneration.
It'd be interesting to see how it all gets resolved and what the universe looks like at the end of this. Whether it's going to be a post-war Time War type thing, or if it's going to be a post Last of the Time Lords. Everything was reset.
Yeah.
Because I think those are the 2 options, and they've kind of gone really big with the Flux can destroy the universe, but I don't think they've left themselves enough wiggle room to be like, it's only destroyed a few planets so far. And if it's specifically targeting the Doctor, then maybe they can get around. It will chase the Doctor to different places, which will get destroyed, but it's not going to take. But again, that's another thing that we'll have to see what happens in 6 episodes time more than anything else.
Yeah.
So have you got any other positive points before we move on to the negatives?
Yeah, the extra bonus ones. I put Jodie as well. I really enjoyed her, as I always do. I really liked Carvanista as well, and the idea of what his species do. When called upon in a big crisis, man's best friend go and take a human each to save them. I thought that was a really neat idea. I liked that a lot. And I'm also very pleased that they are properly exploring the division and the Timeless Child thing. I'm glad that properly got referenced, and maybe frustratingly kind of glossed over at times. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, park that. What's that glowing thing? Come on.
Yeah. I've been chasing you down, but 1 second.
Yeah.
Let me do
the only living person I can find from the division. Oh, what's that symbol? But yeah, I'm at least glad that they've kind of said it we are exploring this in this arc. Don't worry. We're not just forgetting it because some people moaned about it online. So I like that. That was kind of all my bonus positives.
I did see that someone was complaining that the Carvanists are oh, where have they been in previous apocalyptic events? It's well, they specifically said when it's in grave danger, literally about to die. And I don't think, and I guess it also sets this apart from everything else, and that this is even worse than what's come before. But you could argue that the Earth or the human race at least, has never sort of faced that kind of threat. Whether it's been a Sideman invasion or a Dalek invasion, there's always been either the human race can fight off themselves or the Doctor's been there to sort of help. Whereas this one was obviously deemed there's no way they can protect themselves from this. Even the Doctor can't do it.
Also, Doctor continuity no longer is important.
Yeah, because where are the Reapers, guys? They have, they should have appeared a number of times.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fine. I think they sufficiently sort of explain away why they've never been around before, which is fine, because I don't want to have to introduce every alien and be so this is why they weren't here, or here. Why wasn't Carvanista at the Pandorica when the Pandorica opened? Surely there would be, but it's fine. If they could revise that and say there was a ship up in the skies along with the other ones, because
when the Daleks take all the planets and where were they for Earth then?
Yeah,
I'd love a flashback. of them arriving just as the Earth vanishes. Like, oh, for God's sake.
They go, well, it should be here. And they just see the Doctor's TARDIS here, like the other side going, have you seen it anywhere?
Hang on a minute.
Yeah. But yeah, so as you can tell, quite a few positives from us. But as is the case with our review system, we do have to talk about the negatives, yes. Which is only fair. So I'll sort of go first, and I think most of mine are kind of nitpicky, and at the same time, it could change based on the context we get over the next few episodes.
Yeah, mine too.
So my first one is sort of maybe there's too many questions sort of posed.
That's mine as well.
In the first one. Again, it might give context with the rest of the series, and it might be like, okay, that's why we need to do that. But it felt very like Game of Thrones, where it's jumping to different points of the world and you're introduced to all these characters. Funny enough, no one complained when that happened, but when it's Doctor Who, everyone's like, oh, I can't believe they've done this. But
how have we not gotten all the answers in part 1 of 6?
I know. But I think, and this sort of ties into my sort of second nitpick, is that the one that I think stands out like a sore thumb is the Victorian people digging the tunnels.
Yeah.
I don't know why we need to be introduced to them now, and why that couldn't just be like a cold open for the episode that they're in, because I'm sure that'll be some part of it.
Because I really liked the Sontarans scene as well. That could have easily been the cold open to the next one, I would say as well.
Yes.
So you needed to not have too much going on. Yeah. You could have easily moved that, I think.
Yeah, I think the Sontaran one, at least, it ties in because they mention the flux and they mention that things are happening. Whereas with the Victorian one, it's kind of like, oh, they're here. We're digging some tunnels. I know things you don't know. And they're gone. And you don't see them until the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So that was a bit unnecessary. I think Vinder was fine because his scene at least had a bit to do. And again, it's to do with the flux. He sees it and sends a message off, which is fine. And I guess the Weeping Angel one is the one where we will find out more about that definitely when we go on, because it clearly
I think
links
that
in.
One out of all of them, I think probably does work for me because of what the Weeping Angels do.
Yes.
So I think that does make sense.
Yeah. But I mean, and again, we'll probably find out, or I hope we'll find out moving forwards. But maybe there was a couple of moments where they didn't really have to introduce everyone. I mean, we know there are still some guest stars to come that we haven't seen, but it does feel like they're like, hey, here are the major players. Remember all these guys? Okay, now we're going to go on with the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's not like a massive thing, but for an episode of 45 minutes, I think it is ish.
It was like 50, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think it the Victorian bit especially is a little bit of padding, I would say, just because it does not add anything to this episode.
Yeah.
So what's your first negative then?
Perhaps a bit too much introduced for the first part. And I know it does remain to be seen like how they could pay off some of this setup. Maybe it's just like maybe there simply isn't room in the others. Maybe the others are all an hour and a half or whatever. I doubt it. But I do think if it puts you in a position being like, I need to watch that again because there was just so much thrown at me, especially for part 1, I'm a bit like, that might put some people off. Like, oh yeah, I'm never going to understand this. I don't have time to watch it again. I'm working 7 days next week or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a bit of that. People be like, oh, it's going to put off casual viewers. Casual viewers don't watch Doctor Who anymore. Get over it. Like watch it all or don't. At this point. We've gone on that
with 3 seasons into a Doctor, if they're jumping on, they're going to wait until the regeneration.
Yeah, because one of my friends, I tweeted about it, and one of my friends from school replied to me being like, I haven't watched any of the era since the Spider one. And he was like, what do I need to catch up on before can I jump into this and not understand it? Or do I need to rewatch some of old stuff? I said, watch your old stuff. And he's like, cool. I'm like, easy.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely should watch all of it, but you could probably give of the last series, at least, you can probably watch 3 maybe of them. Maybe the first 2-parter, Fugitive, and then the final 2-parter, I think is probably what you would need to take. But to get the full effect of everything, you need to watch everything.
Yeah, just because this is airing live, don't feel the need I need to catch up on everything right now. It's not going to go away. It's lovely to watch it live, of course, because spoilers and stuff. But if you need to catch up, then take your time catching up.
Yeah.
But that being said, there was a thought in this one. because I'm just like, did we necessarily need the Williamson stuff just yet? Could that have been held off for when he probably gets a lot more focus? They could have moved the Sontaran bit. We didn't need to, but they could have done. Again, Vinder could have had like a whole introductory prologue bit before the main title sequence in an episode where he's properly involved. Did we necessarily need it now? Obviously, that can all swap and change. The TARDIS leaking and going all malfunctioning. Did we really need that on top of everything else going on with the Flux and stuff? Did it necessarily need to happen? I don't know. The sequence in the Arctic, obviously, it introduced the sister and stuff. Are we going to need to have the sister in this? Ultimately, we'll have to wait and see. I like the introduction with Diane and Dan and everything. It sets up his character a bit. Did she need to be captured by the sister who may not even need to be in this? We'll have to see where that goes. Like, why her? It's just more questions. At the end of the day, is that going to be a subplot that's going to be worthwhile? We'll have to wait and see. So there's just so much they throw at you. And there's so much. I still think even with 5 episodes left, not all of these arcs are going to be paid off, I think, in a way that's like, oh, that was worth it. And that's just the nature of things, really. You know, you can't really help that per se. Unless you get rid of them and don't explore them. It just felt like, oh, I have all these ideas, but oh shit, we only have 1 more year of Doctor Who. I'm just going to put them all in, and we'll see what sticks. So it did feel like a lot. And while I don't necessarily mind that, because especially rewatching the episode, I think it really did gel a lot better for me. The fact that I felt like I needed to rewatch it to understand the bare minimum of the plot, I don't think that's great, particularly for a part 1. So that's my big thing that I desperately like. Oh, come on now.
Yeah, I do think that's fair. I've even like at the end of my notes I put, how do they all link? Because I think that's like of all the questions, the main one is how and why are we seeing all of these different characters in different places? There must be something that links them together. Are they linked by the Flux? Did the Flux start because of the Swarm? What are the Victorian people building something for the Swarm? For the Sontarans, for the Weeping Angels, maybe the Cybermen, because we know they come back at some point.
Haven't happened yet. Yeah.
Is Vinder coming? Is Vinder going to meet the Doctor and like crash when they land, or are they never going to meet? Because we sort of speculated, you know, we never see them. They're not in any promo pictures together, I don't think. And he wasn't at the Comic-Con panel with them, so maybe they never actually meet in the same room. So it'll be very interesting to see how they all link together, and hopefully by the end of this, all of what we get thrown at us in this episode will be like, okay, that's why that's there, which I think will be the biggest achievement of the series if everything does make sense and link together. So my second negative, which is quite nitpicky, is for an episode marketed as it's a Halloween episode, and for the Halloween apocalypse, it's not very Halloween-y.
Yeah, that was my third one.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they just couldn't call it the apocalypse because maybe that was a bit too dark for a kids' family.
Here comes the Flux.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe they just, because it was airing on Halloween, they're like, oh, we'll just call it Halloween episode, whatever. There are like some scary elements in this. Obviously the Sontarans look creepy, the Weeping Angels are in it, so they're quite creepy. It's quite a tense scene that they're in as well. So as it, and obviously Swarm is very scary and very gross. So I'm sure it is more Halloweeny and scary for younger viewers, whereas for people like us, they've just put a couple of pumpkins outside and said, oh, Halloween, trick or treat. And that's it.
Yeah, that was kind of my third one as well. There's so much you could do with like a Doctor Who episode set at Halloween, especially because this is the first time ever that's been done.
Yeah,
unbelievably. It could have been set anytime, really.
Yeah, I mean, part of me thinks that they only set it at Halloween so he could do the bit to the Doctor that was into camera and be like trick or treat, and then that was it.
Then Yaz can go Halloween trick or treat.
Yeah.
Oh, like
yeah, it's like, oh, that's what the man said, that famous phrase that's always said around this one time. Oh no.
That's the first thing Yaz thinks of when it comes to Halloween.
Yeah. So I mean, fine, they mention it, and I do like, I guess it's also kind of the joke as to the species coming down and all being dogs and then maybe being mistaken for people in costume. I like that throwaway line of it might cause a problem. but it does feel like it's just like, oh, it's a Halloween, is it? All right, we'll throw in some pumpkins.
Yeah, if you're setting out Halloween to tell it one joke, I'm a bit like,
yeah, it could have been done more, and maybe it would have been a different one if this wasn't on Halloween. Maybe they would have had, or if the series started earlier, maybe another episode might have been spookier and more suitable for Halloween. But what can you do? It's fine. It will be scary for the younger viewers, which as much as we might not think so, they are the target audience.
Yeah.
So it's fine. So what's your second negative then?
Yes. My second, but in this case also final, the recycled Doctor and Yaz conflict of her not telling.
That's my anything. Third.
Yeah. And they've had this fight multiple times at this point across many years. There's been no real development to it. They just go round and round in circles. And it's just like so desperate to not give us answers, but keep watching. This time this will be the series where you do get it. Because like that scene where she finally finds this person she's been tracking for God knows how long at this point. It's like, hang on, what's that behind you? Like, park that. And then like, well, we're not done because your weapons are back online at this convenient time. It's just a bit frustrating in that terms of that. But it's just as great as the Doctor and Yaz are, now it's just the two of them. They are still just having the same fight that they did have, even when there was a big chunky TARDIS team. And it is just a bit like, we need to resolve it at this point. I get that it's part of 13's character, but I think she just doesn't really open up. She can't open up to problems. And I like that because I think it's a bit different. And I think that kind of bleeds into what a lot of people have problems with in Can You Hear Me, with Graham opening up to her about his fears, because she's faced with a guy doing what she can't do. And I think that made her very uncomfortable. She's like, how do I respond to this? I think maybe that's why her and Dan might actually quite get on, because Dan seems to do the same thing. He can't tell people what he's going through. So I think that could be an interesting thing for them to explore. But the fact that they've planted that idea that the Doctor can't open up, and Yaz is the one who really gets frustrated about that, certainly in series 12, more so than anything. And that was, start of 2020. So it's been a while. And I think it's probably done in Revolution of the Daleks as well a bit. And then here. If there was some kind of development, it was like, this is why I can't tell you this, like, leave it, Yaz. Maybe she keeps pushing and like, oh, for God's sake. And that causes some tension. Maybe it will in the long run, but we haven't had any development to that conflict at all at this point. And it is a bit like, oh, come on. Yeah,
because the main thing from that is that when there was the chunky TARDIS team, and when she went off looking for the master, they were like, hey, why aren't you telling us? Because that was when she found out that Gallifrey had been destroyed. And then I think she did snap a little bit there in terms of just leave it. But that was midway through the last series. And since then, she did open up about the master's relationship and the timeless child and all that stuff. And then it just seems like they're like, oh, like, hey, here's what's wrong. And now they've just gone, now I'm not telling you anything anymore.
I don't buy that she's not telling Yaz about her why she's hunting Carbonista at this point, because you have opened up to that side of things. Yeah,
it's quite hard to like be like, yeah, you stay here on this planet, I'm gonna go and shoot off there. And I mean, it is strange, because surely Yaz must be asking, okay, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Why we, as the companion does. And it's frustrating for the audience as well, because you're always, the companion is your way in, and so you're always thinking, yeah, come on, explain to the companion, because we want to know. But it hasn't happened yet. I'm hoping we'll get that soon as the series goes on, and they'll get some answers, and Yaz will get some answers. But yeah, it's just frustrating that it's the same conversation that they keep having across 3 series. Which is a shame. And I mean, the 10th Doctor had a little bit of this with Martha, but at least he did open up towards the end of that series. Not even then,
and that was just one series, really.
So hopefully it'll happen, especially with Dan there. Maybe they'll both sort of help each other open up and be a bit more open with people. But again, we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll get to the end of episode 6 and be like, oh, okay, so she has told them, or Yaz has stormed off somewhere and got herself trapped, and the Doctor's like, oh, I can't, that kind of thing. But we will see. Indeed. As with a lot of things so far this episode.
As is the way of a 6-part story,
Yes. So that's kind of it with the negatives, unless you've got any sort of other points.
I don't, no.
Excellent. I want to shout out to the sort of the CGI in this. I thought the CGI of the planets exploding was quite cool. Really good. I put, don't forget it's Halloween, because they got to mention it like 3 times.
4 pumpkins.
Yeah, literally. A lot of my things are just, how do they fit in? Why is this here? Why is this happening? So, oh well. I liked, there was some little, as a Liverpool fan, there were some nice references to Jurgen Klopp. And
yeah, I didn't catch that the first time around, but I was like, oh, that's great.
I was like, there's a Jurgen Klopp.
She praised that era.
And like the Barcelona game, I think, is the one where I think Liverpool were, oh God, I want to say they were 3-0 down. They lost the away leg 3-0 in the Champions League, and they had to come back and win, or at least draw it at home. And I think they won 4-0. They basically scored a really last minute goal which sent them through, which is what she is referencing, I assume, because that's the only iconic Barcelona game of the past few years. Right. So I like that as a Liverpool fan. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's not really something Doctor Who has sort of done a lot of, especially current sports, at least. They've referenced the World Cup and the Olympics and stuff, but not a specific team, which is nice. My only other sort of concern maybe is who trapped the sister there. Why is she there? Is it a Ruth fugitive doctor type thing where
that's what I'm wondering.
They've escaped because they're in the Arctic Circle and they obviously get a warning.
Yeah, they were aware of something.
Yeah,
and the other guy was also aware of it.
Yeah,
so I don't know if it's like a similar situation with Ruth and that guy that her husband or whatever it was, because he was also aware of.
But
things.
Ruth wasn't aware that there was something going on, whereas the woman is clearly like, that's a warning signal. We're going to ignore it.
Yeah. So they promised this would never happen or something.
Yeah. So I can only assume
we didn't get it.
The division put her there maybe, and this guy was her minder or something. I don't know. Again, something else we'll probably get some more answers to, I would hope.
Yeah.
But yes, as per usual, I assume you have a few fun facts, despite airing one day ago.
Yes, I have all of 4. Because obviously a lot of the fun facts come from behind the scenes stuff, which we're not going to get for quite a while in regards to this episode. So,
unfortunately,
soz. That is the way of doing this live or live-ish.
Yeah.
But yes, I do have a couple, and then I have some viewing figure stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, this is the first televised Doctor Who story to be set on Halloween, and didn't they do well with it? This is one of 5 episodes of Doctor Who to be set on the day that it was broadcast. The others being The End of Time Part 1 on Christmas Day, 2009 or 10-ish.
Wow. Yeah.
On Christmas Day, maybe not the date is wrong, because that shouldn't really count.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Big Bang on 22nd of June 2010,
Mm-hmm.
The Impossible Astronaut on 22nd of April 2011, and Resolution on New Year's Day 2019. The beginning of this episode marks the first time in Doctor Who history that a televised story has had an all-female TARDIS team. So that's fun.
Until the end.
That's why I said the beginning.
Oh.
And then, according to the subtitles in certain versions of this episode, when the Doctor tries to escape her voice-activated handcuffs, she first tries to mimic the 12th Doctor's voice, followed by the 7th Doctor's, which is when she rolls her R, because that was a thing that 7 did all the time. So I think that's a nice little touch. I don't think that was the way of the UK subtitles, sadly, but it was elsewhere, I think. So that's fun, and those are the fun facts, because there's barely anything about this episode yet.
Yeah, that's fair.
But excitingly, we can talk about viewing figures, which I'm sure everyone's so keen to find out about.
Yeah,
because they did just release the overnights for this one, and I don't want people to moan about them saying it's flopped, because it didn't. But yes, overnight it got 4.43 million viewers, considering the early slot, people be out trick-or-treating stuff, which is quite good. And in comparison to that, ITV's most watched show yesterday, the day this aired, according to when we're recording this, got 3.8 million at 8 p.m.
That's good.
So that was ITV's most watched show. Doctor Who got 4.43 million. Revolution of the Daleks, which was the episode before this one. Granted, this aired on New Year's Day. It had Captain Jack back. It had the Daleks in it. 4.69 million. So 0.2 million more. Not that much, all things considered. And Revolution of the Daleks had a 21.1% audience share. So that's pretty damn big. And, this isn't that far behind it being a Halloween event, which is quite fun. And also in comparison to that, Spyfall Part 1, so the start of the last series, had 4.88 million. And again, that was on New Year's Day where people would be home. Halloween, some people would be out. So not that far behind, all things considered. Part 2 had 4.6 million. Obviously, that was only a couple of days later on the Sunday. And both of those episodes actually gained over 2 million viewers in 7-day figures. So people are estimating probably an extra at least 1.5 million 7-day figure consolidated for this episode. So it's performing just as well as ever, really. And it's just the fact that people will be like, oh, I'm going to stream a Halloween movie on Netflix or something nowadays, stuff like that. And even big name things like Daleks and Captain Jack doesn't really give a huge change in viewing figures anymore. Start a series, etc. It's not really, I think, who's in Doctor Who anymore or who's running it. It is more so the fact that people who aren't going to be watching Doctor Who anymore will not come back to it. A lot of people aren't really going to be joining it unless they watch the entire thing, etc., because TV is very different to how it's consumed now. People don't watch TV live anymore. That's the way it is.
Yeah, and even so, like you look at Doctor Who's Twitter feed today and they're like, it's streaming now. So it's, they're clearly trying to get in on that. Netflix, Disney Plus, we're streaming the episode, and they were saying it's streaming on iPlayer same time. So they clearly, and I think we mentioned it yesterday, that if it wasn't for BBC One, they would definitely put this straight onto BBC iPlayer. Because
so at the end of the day, Doctor Who's been back for 16 years. The hype has died down. The hype died down years and years and years and years and years ago, So that's just the fact that it still performs that well. And I remind you, nearly 1 million viewers more than ITV's most watched show yesterday, which had a slot where most people would have gone back from trick-or-treating, etc. Doctor Who's still doing incredibly well.
And does that include BBC iPlayer figures, or is that just live?
It's live and iPlayer for 31st October.
For that one,
And
so then obviously
today until next Sunday will be today until next Sunday will be 7-day figure.
And obviously that's just the screens. That's not even the people that are watching it on the screens. Each of those screens could be 2 or 3 people.
That aren't going to be the millions more who haven't seen it before and decide to watch Doctor Who this year or buy it on DVD and watch it for the first time. Because obviously this will never be counted, but that's going to be a huge share of the audience as well.
Which is why I kind of think that it's probably a bad move from the BBC to sort of remove Doctor Who from Netflix. I know they want to push their own streaming and stuff, but having the earlier stuff on Netflix keeps the viewers going and keeps them interested, and you can keep putting them on there, and then it's already got the subscriber base. Whereas if you take it off there and say, you've got to come to our app, I can't even get BBC iPlayer on my PS5. There's no app for that. So I'm not going to watch BBC iPlayer as much. I'm only going to watch it when I know there's something I want to watch on it, which is very often, because surprise, surprise, you can get other BBC shows on Netflix or on Amazon Prime. So I think that probably hits a little bit. And as you said, if you can stream it whenever, people aren't going to necessarily feel like they have to watch it at 6:25 in the evening. They could wait until a Wednesday or next Saturday.
And there will be some people who hate women out there being like, oh, Strictly Come Dancing got 10 million viewers. That is the outlier, my friends. Compared to literally everything else, that's the one that stands out as like, that is once in a blue moon, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones levels kind of viewers. Game of Thrones didn't get like 10 million views and stuff till season 4 or 5. It's a complete outlier. So shut up,
and even shows like that are different to Doctor Who as well, because those shows you have to watch. It's reality TV. You have to watch it that weekend because people will definitely be talking about it all week, and you can't then, if you miss one. I've not seen this new series of Bake Off because I missed the first one, missed the second. I'm like, I can't be bothered to go back and watch it now because there's no point. That's why I'm a Celeb is always the big thing, because everyone will watch that live because it's reality TV. It's happening live. Like, it is live. Whereas shows like this, they're obviously fiction. You can obviously watch them wherever because you're probably not going to, the Doctor's not going to be evicted next week. So, I mean, maybe, who knows? They've done that
Series
before.
1.
But I think you shouldn't compare this to any reality TV show because it's not the same thing.
You can't even really compare it to Doctor Who when it first came back.
No, and you wouldn't compare it to a movie, would you, with how much it makes? So it's a similar thing.
Yeah.
But it's fine. It had good viewing figures, and it's, as always, if you like it, and you're gonna watch it. So don't shit on people who like it. And at the same time, if people have criticisms, valid criticisms, not just I hate women, let them have them and talk about it and discuss it in a polite way. Don't just say, oh, you hate this because you hate women, unless they actually do, unless they have said, literally, this is the worst Doctor Who because she's a woman. If they have
which I had a comment of when I woke up this morning.
Surprise.
So that's for you, sir, that I got rid of the comment of.
Oh, it is, and as this has shown, you can have discussions about what is wrong with the show, and you can have criticisms, and you can disagree with what other people think, and that's perfectly fine, because it's all art and it's all subjective. But when your view is tainted by bigotry, that's when you deserve to be called out for it more than anything, and your opinion isn't valid. Sorry to let you know that if anyone out there is watching this and thinking, oh, I hate women, am I a bigot? Yes. Soz.
Even like some of the tweets I saw was like, oh, the first 5 minutes we have a disabled woman and we have the homeless. Like, oh, they're ticking all these boxes. They're so woke. I'm like, it's not woke. It's progress, you dicks.
It's not even woke. It's real life. Have you ever stepped to Liverpool? Do you know the poverty issues they have? Have you ever been there?
So, see, they're getting a disabled character. Yes, played by a critically acclaimed actress. I'll have you know. Like,
for God's sake, you don't like. Just some people are just weird. They won't want change and they'll never be happy. But at least those people are becoming fewer and fewer. And
rewatch the stuff you like and leave us the fuck alone.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't like it, and it's always, and social media is the big problem. We're going on the tangent here, but social media has given a lot of people the power to be like, they can say that because it's there. Like, if you were hearing somebody talk about it in the street, you wouldn't stop and say, you're wrong, you're shit, it's shit. You just keep walking. But because it's online, because you have the platform and the ability to reply straight away, people feel like they have to get their opinion in, which sadly has obviously, well, I mean, not sadly, because it at least calls out who's racist and sexist, but unfortunately it has highlighted the amount of people in the world who are like that, which is both good and bad, because you can see the problem firsthand and you can see that what needs to change.
I have seen on Twitter and stuff, I have seen much more positivity to this episode than I have in past. So I've clearly been blocking the right people over the years because I'm seeing less and less of the awfulness.
Yeah, I think, and I was looking at the hashtag last night, and I do think this was quite positively received, which is good, and hopefully the rest of the series is. And speaking of positively received, that does mean that we have to rate it out of 10.
Oh God, yeah. Damn.
So out of 10, what are you giving the Halloween Apocalypse?
Oh, this is difficult because so much of it is going to rely on what's coming. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to easily like change my mind, I think, as we get more and more answers and stuff. Oh God, I don't know. I'm talking between like 7 or 7.5-ish. I feel like I'm around there. Mm-hmm. It's not like I dislike much. It's wait and see. So I don't want to really punish it for that yet. Mm-hmm. I may retroactively be like, no, this is terrible. I'll go 7.5. I'll be generous.
Oh, nice. I've gone for 7. So, because and sort of as I was thinking, and as we watched it live, I think we really enjoyed it. And watching it again, I still like flew through it. I didn't feel
I would say, I think the 0.5 for me comes from watching it again. I will say that.
Yeah, I think that's fair, because I didn't feel like I got more out of it the second time, and I didn't feel like, oh, this bit's dragging, this bit's, it's only the second time we've seen it, so that could change with a number of rewatches. But I didn't feel like it wasted any time necessarily. But again, we'll get more context for that moving forwards. And then it's all really set up. It's effectively the part 1 to a 2-part finale. This,
we're rating a 1/6 of the story.
Yeah,
which seems bizarre, but
so we'll see how it goes. I'm sure there are going to be episodes that are higher and lower, and maybe a higher one could be next week, because next week is the War of the Sontarans. Mm-hmm. I assume it means there's a war with the Sontarans.
No, I doubt it.
I believe it's set during the Crimea War. And the Sontarans are in it. That's about it. We know, really, isn't it?
Pretty much.
I really don't, because it's not, it's not the same situation where we've seen it before, so we can easily talk about what we think.
I did see a tweet of someone who took the trailer and like cut out everything we've seen, and there's like 17 seconds of it left, so we really don't know what's happening.
No, which is good. So I'm interested to see how this goes. I'm excited to see the Sontarans back next week in more detail. Want to see what their part is in this, whether they're just taking advantage of the chaos to like go and just attack people because they can. I want to know why we've been thrown back to the Crimea War rather than in 2021. Maybe they just needed a war so they could have a big open battlefield out in the fresh air, so they didn't have to do COVID restrictions. But we'll come on to that. And there is a big battle between the soldiers and Sontarans as well, which looks intense. So we'll see how much that plays. Part of me thinks it's going to be the cold open, and then that'll be it. then we know one big battle.
I'm hoping it's not a revolution of the Daleks, where it's like we have this battle between like 6 Daleks, and then it's like, and it's all over. There's only one left. Just like, that all happened off screen.
Okay then. But hey, we'll see what happens. So this is where everything changes for the schedule wise. Up next shall be Series 3. Where we're reviewing Last of the Time Lords, the final episode, and then next week we'll also be back with Series 13, Doctor Who Flux Part 2, War of the Sontarans, and then that should be around this. Hopefully we're going to be doing Tuesday, Saturday, and we'll try and work that out. But everything will be clearly titled and clearly marked, so you're not going to click on Series 13 thinking you're getting the Christmas special. Hopefully, that's the plan at least. But yeah, we will be back for some more Doctor Who later in the week. Let us know what you thought about this episode below. Obviously, we enjoyed it. What do you think is going to happen with the rest of the series? Are you excited for it? Let us know. Check out our live reaction on Liam's channel, and we'll see you later on. Bye-bye.
Bye.